Why does cycling apparel sucks? Follow-up part 1. So I had this video just making fun mostly about myself and how I struggled getting into my older kits because my newer kits that fit me a little bit better but not the greatest were in the wash. And I thought to myself, well, yeah, two things. Well, if you've been into cycling, you've aged out and your body changes over time. And what is the good brand or style or what have you, and how to navigate that in this later at age, different body shape perspective. Really, it was just a video about making myself funny and kind of strike a nerve and attention to see if anybody out there has brought in some lines that they have found to be more flattering, easier to use, more comfortable, all those things, right? But in the interim, there's a dark side to this. We'll talk about that in a moment. Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. Hi, I'm Justin the Guy. Obviously, I have a garage shop. Take scary out of used, one bike at a time. If you want to be kept up to date on latest projects and topics, please like and subscribe. The dark side. Well, okay. I'm a YouTuber. I understand there's going to be a whole bunch of different opinions on a whole bunch of different things, especially when I'm working on bikes, talking about brands, what have you, and so forth. It's expected. But this is what was not expected whatsoever, is the multiple, more higher percentage of negative comments directed to me in body shaming. Okay, I've been a skinny little twit for the last, good portion of my life.
I can attest that he's been a skinny little twit.
Yeah,
Still a twit.
Still a twit, but no longer skinny. And my body changed in my 40s, and I got a different shape. It's the Woo from Dr. Seuss, Woo body. And I'm still trying to make fun of it in the sense that I'm accepting it, right? This is how I am. And yeah, I can change my diet, as one person stated. Get away from the junk, push away from the table, stop shoving it in your face. I will show you a couple of these comments because this is something that strikes a nerve with me. And honestly, I was kind of like, whoa, I didn't expect this. And after talking to my wife, it's like, well, welcome to the club. And she's not the skinniest Barbie doll person. She's an average person, like a lot of us are average person. And here's my point. Cycling should be for everyone. Every body is a cycling body. That's my latest new coming soon t-shirt to you. Any case, yeah, there's a few of these. I'll let you see a couple of them. Not necessarily want to throw these individuals on the bus, and unlikely they'll see this because I definitely blocked them from my channel. That is definitely something I do not want to encourage going forward. But yes, body shaming has no place in the cycling community because, number one, we all should be able to ride bikes, be comfortable what we're wearing, and be able to either go to a coffee shop, restaurant, what have you, or just do our recreational riding without feeling self-conscious about our body types and so forth. And cycling should be fun. It's very healthy, and a lot of these clothings are technical design and not for fashion design. So a lot of people, if they're having either conscientious about their weight or their body shape or what have you, cycling apparel is not the most flattering thing. And it should be not the conversation of negativity. It should be, hey, thanks for coming out for a ride. That's a cool jersey. That kind of thing. Versus, you need to push away from the table, kind of conversation. But I want to sit here with John Bradley, and I told him about this, and he got a little upset, but we don't want to talk about the upset part anymore. But I want to talk about the history of cycling clothing, which sounds very irritating, needless to say, but we should wait for the next trash truck to leave. So I wanted to just go back in time. Woo, like Wayne's World. You ever seen Wayne's World? No? Yeah, okay. Just make sure it's not a Boston reference. Anyway, John brought up like, well, do you know?
Actually, that's kind of funny. You just reminded me of Gene Keel. Oh, you know. Cycling clothing is kind of interesting because it came because people had to adapt starting in the 1800s, the 1880s, I guess, 80s, 90s, into the 1900s. to something that would be comfortable and functional,
Okay.
to ride the bike. And particularly as I started a race, and racing clothing is its own separate thing, because if you're building clothing to race in, you're going to be interested in aerodynamics, in function, some of those things. I mean,
Yep.
if you ever wondered why cycling jerseys had the pockets in the back, well, if you're riding a drop bar road bike and you have pockets in the front, you're going to dump all your stuff out on the road, so you want to put it in the back. Although there actually are vintage jerseys with front pockets, some of them. But back then, if you look at materials that were available, a lot of wool clothing. I mean, back in the 1800s and actually in the 1900s, swimming suits were made out of wool. I don't know how many people drowned as a result, and they were like onesies for adults.
Yeah, they're jumper rompers.
Yeah, I mean so they were using wool, which is a challenging material. I mean, we know how to use wool better. It's better blends, stuff like that. But anyway, the more natural materials, which was good and bad. There were pads, the chamois pad, which a lot of people always, when you tell them there's a pad within the short, then they go to, pad against a shock absorbing pad. And it's actually an anti-abrasion pad is what it is. So you used to have a leather chamois inside your wool short, and you would have to use, kind of a fat-based product to keep that chamois supple.
Yep.
And in fact, people used to talk about how to keep it hygienic, which, like, every time you wash your wool shorts with a real leather chamois in there, you'd flip it inside out and let the sun kill whatever microorganisms might be, crawling around, so you're not bringing the crowd along in the ride with you.
Yeah, and if you don't know about cycling clothing, that is straight onto your skin. There's no underwear.
Right.
It's just your junk is all over it.
If you're wearing briefs or whatever, it's binding up underneath you. You're trying to, again, it's kind of going towards comfort. The shorts, there's a number of places to go. I'm trying to kind of keep things in order here, but racing clothing is all about racing. So actually, for a while, they mandated, when I started racing my bicycle back in the 70s, black shorts. You could not have anything besides black.
Really?
And part of the reason that this actually goes back to the origins of cycling, when people started racing, they were using leather saddles. And if you're trying to keep your leather saddle good, you're using various oils and things like that on it. And you don't want to wear a white short. I don't know why anybody would wear a white cycling short anyway. But anyway, I digress. Because it looks bad.
Yeah.
You get these nice little stains.
Little skin.
So that was, black shorts.
It's good smart.
This one I didn't ever quite understand it, but you had to have white socks, and they actually prohibited them from being too high.
Oh.
White socks. Yeah, I mean, it was wool. There probably was a little bit of cotton out there. So that was for racing. They started playing around with shoes too, because with the cycling shoe, and I always use this when I'm selling cycling shoes, is, I go look at a pair of shoes like I'm wearing now. That's a running shoe, so it's made to absorb energy as I'm striding or running along. A cycling shoe is made to transmit energy. So if you're wearing a running shoe on your bicycle, the first thing you're doing, your energy is being wasted because you're squishing your shoe. Mm-hmm. With a cycling shoe, you're trying to transmit as much energy and not lose any. So that's why you have these hard soles on the thing. That's why there's a stiff sole, which is also to increase the leverage. Your foot is a lever. So that's the shoe part of it. Trying to think. But on the other side of it, you're not racing. There's some interesting things that cycling has done. So a lot of people don't realize that the bicycle, one of the reasons it became such a phenomenon, and we have no idea because it's not taught in schools, it's not shown in films or anything like that. Bicycling was one of the biggest booms of the 19th century. It just transformed things. People didn't have to buy it. It was liberating because you didn't have to buy a horse to get from A to B. You could ride your bicycle. Didn't have to feed your horse. For a woman, incredibly liberating because you didn't have to ask some guy to get his horse and wagon to take you somewhere. Sure. Which actually led them to going like, wow, it's really clumsy to ride in a dress. Yeah. So actually, I'm going to digress a little bit. If you did happen to ride in your dress, or perhaps you're of a Celtic persuasion, you're in your kilt, there's part of the problem was the dress might swoop around you and get caught in the rear wheel. If you look at some older European bicycles, there's actually holes in the fender where you'd put a net to keep your skirt from coming in and get caught in your rear wheel.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Did not
kind of
know
interesting.
that.
But
You're old.
as women started to ride bicycles, they developed pedal pushers, aka bloomers,
Okay.
because they're pants basically are a lot better to ride on a bicycle than a skirt or a dress.
Sure.
So kind of some interesting digressions there. Cycling gloves have been around forever. It's again, you're kind of trying to increase your grip and do some shock absorption and stop hand numbness. Is typically what cycling gloves are about. Back in the day, they were leather, and you'd have a crochet palm. I used to have very interesting tans because you could see the little dots
on your,
because crochet, you got these little.
That's probably why I have like freckle marks.
Yeah. Yes. Same here. Trying to think. The history of it is pretty interesting. It's gotten way better functional.
Yeah.
A lot of people wonder what the heck is wrong with you cyclists. Why do you look like you're shrink wrapped?
Yep.
And as I get older and slower, I hate when I hear my cycling clothing flapping because I know that I'm increasing the aerodynamic drag. Not that I'm racing. I always say
you're racing your younger self.
I'm racing, but I'm also just racing my mouth. That's my line. I race my bike, I just race my mouth. But it still drives me crazy.
Yeah, sure.
But, you're going for aerodynamics. Anything that you can wear that wicks well, that wicks the perspiration away from your body. Really surprised of late. I've had a number of issues with, ducking and weaving with skin cancer a little bit. Nothing bad at this point. But I now go for a ride. I now wear arm sleeves.
Yeah,
and I wear leggings. I'm out there looking like Casper the Friendly Bradley on my bicycle. But actually, the interesting thing with those, people say, aren't they hot? And it's like, no, once you start to perspire, you actually get this evaporative cooling effect.
That's right.
I don't have to shave my dang legs anymore, which
I never shaved my legs.
It was a total pain in the butt. But also, you're not using as much sunscreen, so you're saving money. Anyway, that's the whole thing. But basically, the thing with a lot of cycling clothing is very function-oriented. However, the really good thing within the past, probably particularly within the past 20 years, there are a number of people who are focusing on I just want to ride my bike and I do want to be a bit more comfortable.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of good clothing out there, options. So you want stuff that you feel good in. You don't mind how it looks, that actually assists your ride. That helps you either more comfortable, more whatever your issues are, comfort, aerodynamics, whatever.
Well, the shorts is a contact point, which is huge.
Yeah.
And also, if you get any chafing after 20 miles, it's going to be not a very good experience, and not implore you to ride more. There's a technical aspect of it, and there's a social aspect of it. There's companies have started doing this, and I made fun of like all clothing. I was just doing a broad spectrum on that, but there is clothing out there, and has been for a while, that's more comfortable, more shape. But the thing is I'm still trying to find, you can still have that technical benefits to clothing without spending a lot of money on it, and as a production, and still make cycling fun. And you were at Trek in the 90s, and you touched upon being one of the people making decisions on clothing at the time. And was it in the 90s, were they starting to branch out for recreational riding clothing?
Yeah.
Back then?
Actually, well before I got to Trek. One of the things I used to like back in the, I guess it would be probably 70s, 80s. There was a brand of, I think it might still be BATA, I always say Beta. Beta bikers. And it was kind of funny. What they did, so before Adidas and Puma came along and revolutionized running shoes, running shoes are pretty funny looking because they're kind of wide sole in the front, but it actually would narrow down to a narrow heel, which is just weird.
Yeah.
But Beta came up and was like, well, is there a cycling shoe we can make out of this? So this is a canvas top, rubber sole, but they actually put a stiffener in it. And the stiffener in a cycling shoe, like I say, is you're trying to transmit energy rather than absorb energy.
Yeah.
And they were real affordable. I think they were I think they might have been around 1999 or
Oh,
something
wow.
like that at the time.
Yeah.
So this would be like, one of the things you always have to, is somebody gets into cycling clothing, they come in to a retailer, is like, do you have something for that person? Because otherwise you went from buying this 1999 Beta Biker, all of a sudden you're going to go, I got this Diodora or Luigi over here that's going to be, close to $100 or more, which is a lot back then.
Yeah.
Um,
Like your $300 shoe
yeah.
now.
So, and actually this kind of goes to one of the issues with bicycle retailers and selling clothing is we could stock those things. We would get full size runs because we knew we had a real market for it. We knew we were successful selling it, and we knew we were going to sell it.
Yeah.
The problem with selling clothing to, it's always, can I get enough turns for it?
Sure.
And the other problem is, you're going to sell, probably mostly mediums, and then, the numbers drop
your
off.
bell curve for sizing,
and then XLs and XSs, it's going to drop off the end of the map.
Yeah.
Really challenging for retailers. So, if your primary business is bicycles, you're looking for an accessory line to do clothing can be very challenging.
Yeah, I remember that. Even in the 90s, it was hard to pick up clothing line business. It was a hard sell. I mean, then you didn't have a really huge customer base. And back then, too, we had Performance Bike, which was the male catalog company where it would, that's where everybody would buy their stuff and inexpensively. I mean, it's just a higher volume. So when you had like Trek or a couple of those other brands back in the day, it's like, oh, well, let's do a pre-order. So that alludes to what I came across today. And it's like, okay, a couple of the suggestions that people have been wearing clothing, one was Primal wear. And Primal is based out of Denver, Colorado. So lucky me. They're real close, and actually I've been at 2 events where they had a Primal tent, and I was talking to the cats, and then they're great people. Primal wear, to allude what you were talking about, more of a recreational clothing, they were a clothing line that was just for more like fun. Like they had fun designs.
Yeah.
It wasn't like Joe Racer with all the different logos of everything that you get sponsored with. It's basically some cool graphics and fun things and that. And even up to today, which is, I think they're over 30 years now as a company, going in there yesterday and I talked to them, and I'll have a featured video coming up here in a few weeks that I'll actually will talk to them directly and interview them and so forth. But they do carry the high-end race tech clothing for the really skinny racers that want to go really fast, and they have the higher level of wicking, recycled material. They went on with all sorts of cool stuff what they're making in their high end, but they still keep and capture the recreational line, which is their sport line. Well, I've been, after doing the original video, going to these several websites of different clothing companies, and if they carry high-end stuff, I just get lost in the weeds. It's not really easy to navigate to go, I got a Dr. Seuss Woo body and I need to fit into something, and it just like doesn't translate because all I see is high-end stuff, or they're using terminology that for a recreational rider will have no clue. And if I get lost looking at catalogs for the last 30 years in the bike industry and I can't find this stuff directly, the customer is not going to whatsoever. But going back to conversation with them, and they have like their different levels, and you can read into it and figure it out. But I want to give a hats off to them because they do make more of like the dad bod clothing series. And they do have measurements, so you can kind of figure out that the sport's going to fit you a little more comfortably, in addition to with the shorts as well. And I've always kind of known about the shorts, like a lot of people have that misnomer, like the thicker padding is going to give you more comfort. Some people do enjoy that. I remember working at Performance, and we had like these gel inserted.
Oh yeah.
My God, they were like 5 pounds, and you can only imagine sitting on it and be like, ooh, I'm sitting on a waterbed on my bike, I mean, if that works for you, great. Encourage you to ride more, awesome. But wow, that was a lot of material. And for me, it's like less is more. I mean, I went the function of it, but as long as it fits correctly, and my saddle's the other big thing. If it fits correctly, you really don't need that much padding. But going back to this company, it's like right off the bat, I got out of the conversation that, yeah, we have stuff like that. And it actually, we can custom stuff. So I'm going to try to work with them and see if I can use my social media power a little bit to see if I can branch out and make my dad bod line from I Know a Guy Bikes a little more comfy, cool little graphics, things like this, some more fun that's more pertains to my business and my viewers. And then, look into, I was talking to my wife, same problems there. And that's where she came up with the coin of like, we need to make a line that's like, everybody is a cycling body. And that, it's a thing within the women's realm of clothing and various others. It's not just cookie cutter. And to get more cross gender into the cycling community, clothing is going to be a big part of it, because I have a lot of lady friends. Not to say that I'm like a very Rico Suave or anything, but I have a lot of people that I know that cycle that are women, and they're really not very comfortable with their clothing that they have. So in any case, I hope to feature them. But anyway, that's one that I've vetted so far within cycling. I did buy a couple articles of clothing off the rack, and heads up, if you go there. There's their offices, but there's a retail store too there that you can get some pretty decent price clothing off the rack. These are like one-offs and stuff like that. So I grabbed a couple garments to see. I will model them here for you, and I'll show you in the video while we're talking about this. But see how they fit and so kind of thing. I was kind of in a hurry, so I didn't grab the sports. I just grabbed whatever was my size, and it could be the racer cut or whatever. But we'll see how they look on me. But anyway, in any case, you're looking like you have some insights on.
Yeah, I mean, I think a couple things. One is I think it's challenging for a lot of bike shops to sell clothing, and you kind of get that "you're not one of us" sort of thing sometimes. Yeah. Plus, if it's a bunch of guys, a lot of women don't feel comfortable talking to men about what their issues are as a woman in riding.
Sure.
Exactly. Or you don't know that guy. The guy might be great, but you don't know. But the key thing is the clothing is out there. You might have to try a little bit harder, but and the returns are good if you can get a combination of you're on a good bicycle, it's a good fit, a good saddle, huge part of your cycling experience and comfort. Anything in the contact points, your feet, your butt, your hands. But if somebody's trying to tell you what you should be wearing instead of listening to what you want to wear, I would get out of there. Whether it's online or at a brick and mortar retail. There is clothing. I mean, we were talking, I think a week or two back, there's a funny line out of the UK called Fat Lad Off the Back. That is actually a clothing company.
Yep.
Because they know there's a market.
That's all they do.
Just, the guy may not have time to ride 50 miles a day or something crazy like that.
But they want to go ride.
They just want to go have fun.
Yeah.
And that's great.
Their site's awesome, because you go to the site and you just look at normal people.
Yeah.
It's just normal people of all shapes and sizes, and their women's line is just the same.
Yeah.
And you're like, and their sizing is like belly size. I'm like, all right, here you go. Yeah. I mean, it's not just waist. They've taken all those perspectives at heart and made a clothing line out of it. And looking at the prices, they're actually not crazy. I mean,
it's hard. I mean, that is one of the issues, though, is everybody's, if you're trying to sell something, the more volume you have, the better you can do with you can get your prices lower.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're you're selling something, a small company that's not making a lot of these things, it's harder. So unfortunately, I would say you might be paying a premium versus I'm fortunate enough I can go in and usually find something that works for me in a bike shop. But if you're not, if you need something that they don't have in there, I would say it's worth it to get something you're comfortable riding in. Both it provides comfort and you feel how good and how you look in it.
Yeah.
If you like riding. And,
you should be able to say, I make this look good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Versus I feel like I'm revealing too much.
Yes. Yes, there's been a few times like, actually, one of the things that does happen to you, this is kind of digressing a little bit, but a cycling clothing, exactly 2 weeks ago, I was out on a ride with my main riding buddy, Greg, and Greg says, "Hey, John, I want to tell you something." He says, I'm behind you here, and I'm seeing way more of you than I ever wanted to see. And what happens to a fabric like this over time, as it's washed and worn,
washed and yeah,
it actually gets a little transparent.
See-through, yeah.
Yes, so
Yeah.
I now no longer own those shorts. They are,
Well,
I've thrown them away, but
I mean, okay, so you pay for, say you found something and it looks good and you're like kind of sticker shock, but you're going to be sticker shocked.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm used to the prices of 100 to 150 for a good jersey, for a good short, but because I'm just preconditioned for it. But and I talk to my customers about saddles. I talk to them about how important they fit. I talk to them about gloves and clothing and cycling shoes. Mm-hmm. And yes, there's a lot of sticker shock to those items, but in my experience of having that clothing, and you rode a lot in those shorts, right? They don't wear out.
No. These are. I have a bad habit of keeping.
Yeah.
Good point. They were probably close to 10 years old.
Yeah. So yeah, and you ride a lot. I mean, I have cycling shoes. They're still perfectly good shape, and they're over 20 plus years. Yeah. Cycling clothing, I'm starting to wear out a few and outgrew a few. So I need to get newer, but some of the garments are still just like they were new. So therefore, putting that investment, it's not like a pair of running shoes. They're going to be worn out in 3 to 6 months. Cycling shoes could last you the whole time of your riding experience. And if anything, you just will get bored of the style like I have. Like, I just want something different, right, just for fun, right, or a different style or a different, whatever the latest craze is. But it is, if you're into cycling and you see that jersey and it's like, it's a little pricey. No, keep in mind, it's going to last a while. It's not like it's going to be worn out in a couple of years, like your other clothing that you may get from a department store or whatever, like your jeans that you wear holes in. Except for Bradley here, you get a little bit of see-through, lingerie style shorts. But in any case, I did want to bring that point up. It's like, well, the thing is for my adventure, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm thinking about buying. Well, I need to buy like 2 or 3 new kits. And I don't mind spending to 200 to 250 on a per set because I know they're going to last and I'll wear them. And if they're comfortable, I'm going to wear them a lot. And if I ride enough to wear them out, yeah, it's a win. I'm like, okay, I'll go get another pair because I'm having a great time riding. But at the end of the day, though, I want to find something that's a little more form correct than my body is today. And as much as I want to push away from the table as some of the comments, however I want to, my diet or working out and so forth, my body is a lot harder to change. And that's something I got a couple jerseys like, I'll run my more riding, I'll fit in this a little bit more. And I was talking to my buddy Jack about that. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to fit in that jersey correctly. And having the correct clothing will enhance your cycling experience. And if your cycling experience is enhanced, therefore you're going to ride a lot more.
Yeah, and I think a key thing I want to stress too is that not every cyclist needs cycling clothing. I've I'm at a point in my life I love riding my 50-year-old Hercules 3-speed around my neighborhood, where I'm fortunate I have a very bike-friendly neighborhood in Fort Collins, and it's just a pleasure to ride. And I'm just out there tooling around, and I'm wearing what I'm wearing right now, basically. Mm-hmm. So there is no must-have thing.
Yeah.
It just is. It can make a ride better, and you can find people at retail and online who can help you find these things out there. But there's a reason for all of it. I love a good pair of cycling. There's some really good stuff out there.
Yeah.
That can it definitely enhances my ride a lot.
Yeah, and I like the 3 pockets in the back because I just got used to them just to put my stuff. And they have shorts now that actually can slide a phone in the inside pockets.
That's come out of gravel.
Yeah.
So one of the things that as you're sometimes so I've got some shoulder issues with this shoulder, which happens to be my right hand, my main hand, and I've got to have a pocket I can get into. Mm-hmm. And I've actually discovered one brand which will at the moment go unnamed. but the pockets are mounted up a little high. So, if you're buying a jersey, just make it, and it's got pockets in the back, just make sure you can get back there. I can actually do it better with my left versus my right hand, but you can get back there and in. But that's one of the things you'll learn as you start to use this stuff, is what goes into it. But the shorts with little pouches on their side are kind of neat, because you can put your, your
slide
gel
your phone in there and your gel pack, whatever.
Your phone, whatever,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool. But that's recognizing, meeting the rider on their terms rather than telling them how you have to ride.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, make equipment and for them, and also I did pitch to Primal, like with YouTube. There's a company called Spread Shop, where that's where you can get the T-shirts below and so forth. They're print to demand. In other words, I just upload my images that I want to be printed or used on printing, and they take care of all the rest. In other words, they take care of the order placement, the production of it, and shipping of the product to the customer, and I just get a little kickback, which is great. I was pitching that to Primal. I was like, hey, you can do this for two directions. You can do this for the bike shops, and you can also do this for just open market for people like me that doesn't want to have. There's no way I can put $5,000 in clothing in my little shop. I mean, to just buy and to hold on to it. But I could definitely leverage a company like that, in like Spreadshirt, but in the cycling realm, cycling clothing. Like, here's my graphics. You can pick a jersey, you can move it around, and 2 or 3 weeks later, boom, lo and behold, you have yourself I know a guy jersey. And you can place the whatever graphics that you want to add to it or whatever, that kind of thing. And then you can pick, the more sport cut and what have you, so on demand. And for bike shops, I think that would be huge, because they don't have to carry a lot of inventory, but still be able to leverage their logos and their branding and their niche. Like, oh, well, I don't have extra large, but go on my website, which will be like a link to basically Primal Wear or whatever. And that goes under the Primal Wear shop, and then you can just pick the stuff that will fit you, and then it'd be sent direct to the customer. And then the bike shop could make a lot less margin, and they'll be more than happy with that, because they don't have to invest in an inventory. It's like, at the end of the day, you're technically kind of making the same amount. I mean, let's just say you made $10 off that jersey that you didn't have to do anything except for advertise it and market it on your website. You made $10. Well, if you bought that jersey, had it printed, sitting on your shelf, and then you had that salesperson do all that, and you have that space, you're probably making less than $10 off that jersey. Because, I mean, looking at cycling clothing and being at Big 5 Sporting Goods, looking at the clothing, when they're doing mass volume, they could bring that price really low. Which I always found kind of interesting, like bigger companies. We won't say a particular one I saw numbers on, but which was a cycling company, and what they're doing as a wholesaler, they're telling the bike shop, well, this jersey is going to cost you $60, so you need to sell it for $120. Well, they're still making at the wholesale level like $40 or whatever it is, but this is branded with that company's logos. It's not corporate brand, and it's corporate branded, not your niche shop brand. Well, I met a shop, or knew a shop in Michigan, and they're like, hell with that. I'm not taking anybody's clothing except for mine with my own logos on it. That's all he carried. And which is brilliant, because you're selling your shop.
Right.
You're not selling the Treks or the Specialized or the Giants and as clothing. You're like, you want your name on that jersey going out there. And that kind of thing. And for me, I want to do some funny stuff, like things like this, or I was trying to figure out one. I was trying to come up with another, like the American version of the fat lad on the back. This doesn't translate here very well.
No.
Like, what? Huh?
Who's
what?
I did bust out laughing when I saw that. I was like, one thing I want to make clear: if you do get to the point where you're buying a pair of cycling shorts, wash them after every ride. Do not. Reuse your cycling shorts or without washing them. So
you can, the dryer works, but if you don't, They won't shrink. It's mostly polyester blends.
It-
Most of the time they won't shrink, so you don't need a.
I would recommend hanging to dry because the part of the thing of the tumbling in the dryer kind of you're
Oh, it
getting
breaks down
abrasion,
those-
and
yeah.
it might lead you to having your best biking buddy saying, "Hey,
That's it. Well, it all
I'm
depends what
seeing
you want
through
to
your
show
shorts
off there,
there,
John.
pal." Yeah.
Or, you know, wash them and hang dry them in the sun. So
Yeah,
take
that's
the
good.
old school, basically, way of killing bacteria.
Yes.
Because I know they have sprays and so forth. And there's also butt butter
Yep.
and things like that to help your sensitive areas.
Yeah.
But usually, a good cycling short will enhance your ride, but the most important part of that contact is the saddle. The saddle really needs to be the best fit. So that's my positive spin on some weird comments on clothing, and I will be reviewing a couple brands and how they fit, and my experience of vetting them, and help you out if you're looking for different styles, or like, hey, I need some new shorts and a jersey and want something cool and different. My perspective is I want something that has a branding capability, because obviously I know a guy bicycle jersey kind of thing be built up, but I'm not totally going to look away from other companies like that's all their brand is, but it has a better fit. So I'm more than happy with that.
Yeah.
Worst case scenario, I'll just have somebody's silk screen or screen print something on there.
Yep.
Or whatever.
Yeah.
We could all do that. But some of these smaller companies, they're affected by the whole upside down of the economy, and they are listening. Oh boy, they're listening. They're scratching their head. They're trying to figure out what direction they need to take their companies and help cultivate what they love doing best too, like the rest of us. So, in any case, well, I have other information below the other previous video too, so you can get a comical. Please be kind. Always be kind with comments. You could always be. You can communicate your opinions without getting too serious about being negative. So it's all about fun. Cycling's supposed to be fun.
And if you get grumpy before you send a message, go ride your bike and calm down.
Yeah,
Then come back.
go ride a bike.
Yeah.
If it's nice in your neck woods, please go for a ride.
Yeah.
Until next time, from the garage, have a
See ya.
great day. I'm thinking on this one, I mean, I don't want to be like, such pricks, rah! But I do want to emphasize a conversation about apparel and cycling should be for everyone kind of thing. And it's kind of like a follow-up video of that one, which I was going to do a follow-up video of like actually specific clothing. But this one was more of when you started talking about the original shorts being wool.
With real, I mean, it was a leather chamois.
Yeah, when let's talk about the history of cycling clothing and where it's come and what it is today. And I did get some really good insights from Primal, talking to one of the lead guys there, and very eye-opening. And their perspective, I'll go into that, is actually pretty cool. But it's like, I want this to not be the focus. I want it to be the start of the conversation. These people probably will not see this video because I basically removed them from seeing any of my stuff. So, but those others, it's like, I want to emphasize that people already have a hard time getting into their cycling apparel and feeling comfortable. They know it's technical perspective of it, but being comfortable is being around other groups, going to restaurants, coffee shops, and that kind of stuff. It's a very and we should be imploring people to go out and ride and those kinds of things, and maybe talk a little bit about cycling clothing. I don't know how much clothing industry part did you touch on any of that when you were at Trek?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we were selling Trek wear, Trek gear, and Trek wear.
Yeah.
In fact, the designer for that lived in Aspen, Mark Joseph, and he used to own the flub of has-been, or the hub of Aspen, as he used to refer to it. But you know, and at retail, I mean, he used to order, you know, clothing for the spoke from Pearl Izumi and Giordano. Actually, it wasn't so much Giordano. They were actually selling, Gita was selling some Giordano stuff, but I don't remember, it was one of the better Italian brands.
Okay.
And we sold Santini. Descent was big.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's really challenging. And I don't know if you want to talk about it pre or just get into it.
Yeah, let me do an intro, and because I just want to basically highlight this and then go, where did cycling clothing came from?
Right.
Yeah, then we'll talk about your yeah, that works. Okay.
Yep.
So yeah, I was like, I better not make a video after reading these right off the first. I would have just been like, you wanker.
You know, you ever heard about Abraham Lincoln with his trying to respond to ridiculous things like this?
No.
So he would do, when somebody like just said something really stupid or wrong or whatever, he would write out a hot letter, which would just let it rip.
Just let it all out.
Never sent one.
Yeah.
And he just used it as an exercise to bring his temperature down, think about it a little bit, and respond. And choose to respond or not.
Yeah.
Either respond in a more intelligent, reasonable fashion, or just let it go.
Yeah, you know, well, with most of the negativity, it's just to basically remove. I don't want to sit there in my community of people reading it and responding to it, because that's not the cultivating community I want to build. And also, those individuals are watching. I will let them go. Like, I don't want them to be part. That's not my people. You know, not the people I'm trying to encourage.
Right.
And
it is interesting that some of them are watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is like, you know, maybe they like.
Well, they may have saw the clickbait and watched it, then they had to formulate their own opinion and smash it down. Where my first experience on that was, you know, this is it for Specialized, and my 45-minute rant of whatever, and boy, you know, a lot of it was towards Specialized, and then a lot of it was towards me, like, oh, you're drunk. I'm like, I'm not drunk. I was sober doing this thing.
I'm on this. I'm on.
Maybe I was sleeping with a lack of sleep, whatever. Whatever.
Yeah.
Move on. You can do it.
I mean, you know, part of it too is this the nature. I mean, it's like people in their cars. You know, a perfectly normal person can become a raving lunatic in their car.
True.
Like, I am now in my oversized, big, fat fucking truck, and I am in charge of the world. And get off my road and all that stuff.
Yeah, they're in front of the Titanic. Well, we know what happened there.
Yep.
Anyway.